Okay, so Ripley is pulling on the leash. His owner Tyler has him in a really strong hold right next to his side. Um, he's just a year and a half old Vizsla, but he's pulling. Every dog pulls. Doesn't matter if they're a little Chihuahua or a Shih Tzu or an Anatolian Shepherd, they're going to pull. And the dog going at a much faster pace than the owner acting almost as a counterweight, is in effect pulling the dog, which is just amplifying the dog's current desire to pull. So it is a reinforced behavior, and they're learning to do it more and more. So the way that we fix that, we can use a prong collar. You can try using a choke chain. Works as well, but I think a prong collar would be better suited here. And so what I'm about to show these folks is how to use the prong collar properly, how to fit the prong collar and how to sit it on top of the dog's neck right behind their head. And then we're going to go over the forms of pressure. So the first thing is that I'm describing how to hold the leash. You want to put your thumb through the loophole and then make a fist around the rest of the leash, and then the dog can't get through it. They can't get the leash out of your hand, and it protects your hand. It doesn't hurt as much anymore. And this is true for any size dog. All right, here we go. We're going to put the prong collar on, and I've already fitted it to the dog. It should fit snugly on the dog's neck at the very top, right behind the dog's ears, just below the dog's jawline. It should be snug, not tight. Snug, not tight. You don't want the prong collar sliding down all the time, right? And that might be different depending on the dog, but generally you want it snug, not tight. Yep, there it is. And they make these really awesome little speed clips. Herm Sprenger makes these great little tools. Love it. And you can just pull it there, it locks in place. But you can see the prong collar is seated high up on the dog's neck behind the ears and right below the jawline. It's not lower. Yeah, I'm just saying the same thing. So now there's two rings, a live ring and a dead ring. The circle is that is not on a little swivel is the dead ring. Okay, so you've got about 25-50% power from the prong collar um, when you have it on the dead ring. And for your more sensitive dogs, you might use that. But for Ripley, because he is not a very sensitive dog, we are going to use the live ring, which is the semicircle that has the swivel on it. Here we go. And I'm monologuing like an evil scientist. No, I'm just kidding. Here we go. There it is. Okay, so call your attention to a couple things right when he began to pull. Not when he was at the end of the leash, but right when that leash became tight, I popped him. I didn't pull him, I didn't tap him, I popped him. Okay? And immediately after, when he looked back and said, "Hey, what the heck was that?" Right? I began backing away. Why? Because dogs are pulled towards motion, okay? They get pulled into it. And the second thing is I was leaning over and I was excited for him, okay? And I began praising the dog, walking backwards, leaning over, welcoming him into me. And then I marked and rewarded him doing that. And what this is doing is teaching the dog resiliency to trust my hand of discipline just as much as my hand of affection. Okay? True love of the animal has to be both discipline and affection, not just affection, 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 or discipline, discipline, discipline. You need both. And I pop him, then I back away, lean over, praise him. Good job, good boy. He comes into me, I mark reward, and then I pet him. I might play with him, and then we keep going on our walk. So he learns not to pull. Look how loose that leash is. Okay, so see his owner just popped him right here, and he messed up. That's okay. It's his very first time. He's learning, and so I'm coming in to teach him what he did wrong and how to fix it. So one, his discipline was rather cold. Okay, he should back away and make it very exciting for the dog. After he, in effect, spanks him, after he pops him with the prong collar, He should back away, welcoming the dog into him, teaching the dog that once he's been corrected, that he can come to his owner, not out of fear, but out of willful obedience and joy and delight. You don't want your dog to run away when you need to discipline them out of fear. You want them to run towards you. And really, we just call this restoring your dog to fellowship. That's what I call it. It's the same thing that you use with kids. All right, so now it's going to be her turn, and she's a little scared. She's like, I'm going to do really great with the affection part. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But for you, you've got to pop, and you've got to pop hard. Generally speaking, it tends to be women have a little bit of a harder time with this, and that's understandable. You know, that's just the difference between men and women. You know, women tend to have a harder time disciplining. They do much better nurturing. Men tend to have a hard time nurturing and a much better time disciplining, but they tend to go overboard sometimes, and so you need a good balance. So here we go. She's going to reward him just because he's doing well. There it is. There's the mark. He looks, and then she gives him the reward. And this is just communicating to him, hey, you're doing good right now. You're doing good. Now, if the dog is pulling, he is absolutely leading the conversation. He's leading the walk. If he is not pulling, all right, and she missed an opportunity there, but it's okay. No harm, no foul. But if the dog is pulling, he's leading the walk. If he is walking in front of you, behind you, on the sides, but the leash is loose, you are leading the walk. And this is the first stage in loose leash walking. There's two other stages that I go through, over the course of about a month. We try to layer it in with the dog and go slow so the owners can learn what to do by themselves so they never have to come to a trainer again with future dogs. And so here in just a moment, she's actually going to pump the brakes and pop him herself, and then she's actually gonna do a really good job rewarding him and bringing him back into fellowship, letting him know, in effect, hey, buddy, we're still on the same team, and I love you. Let's go. All right, here we go. There it is. And then right there, it was a little delayed, but she did really good. Good, good, good. There it is. All right, and we're going to build on that and work on it. Hey, folks, something that I didn't mention in the video is the three forms of pressure and why we are using popping to eliminate the dogs pulling on the leash. So the three forms of pressure that I really want you to focus on in this video, there's more, but the three major forms of pressure is tapping, popping, and pulling. Most folks, when they have a prong collar or a flat collar or a halty or a slip lead or any other kind of a harness, what have you, device on the dog, they're always resort to pulling or yanking the dog back. Okay, and it does absolutely nothing to stop the dog's pulling. Granted, it might stop it a little bit. But what you really want to focus on is the popping. Okay, so if you are pulling your dog or yanking your dog back, what you are in effect doing is amplifying the dog's behavior. You are teaching the dog to pull more and more in the future, and you're teaching them to really enjoy it. Now, what I didn't get to show in the video is there were a couple dogs that passed us, but they weren't acting up. And what I didn't get to show is dogs that are acting up being a problem and causing the dog that we're walking to react poorly, right? To bark back, to lunge at, to try to get to them, and so forth. And I'll have to do another video on that. This Vizsla, Rip, he's super easy. I mean, he's just an easy dog to train. He just gets it quick. He's super resilient. He's not very durable. He's just everything you'd want in a dog that responds well to correction and praise. He does really good on that. So, Tapping, popping, and pulling. Don't pull your dog. Okay, if you pass a dog that has a problem with your dog and your dog starts growling and barking back and trying to lunge at them, you pulling is just going to put basically water on a grease fire. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You want to pop the dog. Pulling is an amplifier. It amplifies the dog's current behavior, and you can actually use it to increase a dog's desire, and help them escalate through the arousal stages. Which is why it's bad for most folks who just want a family dog or just a dog they want a pet, and they don't want their dog acting foolish on their walks or in the house. And when you pull your dog, you're making things much worse. So don't pull your dog. Now, tapping and popping, don't tap your dog if they're exhibiting problems around other dogs or other people. Tapping is going to be the exact same thing as pulling in that occasion. Typically, tapping will speed the dog up or get their attention, but it is not a disciplinary action. It's very light, and in effect, you are nagging the dog in the moment when they need discipline. Now, the only one left to discuss is popping. Popping is a correction. It is a disciplinary action, and it eliminates or significantly reduces behaviors that you don't want exhibited by your dog. So if a dog is pulling, you pop, right? And then you reward them right after. And if they are being aggressive towards another dog, when you catch the warning signs, not when the dog is already acting crazy, but when the dog made the small little decision beforehand. And what comes into play here, what's most effective here, is understanding a dog's body language, right? So when the dog stiffens up, when just a couple hairs start coming up, instead of them being already hyper aroused, leaning forward, their ears are stuck on something, they're glued, they have a hard stare, these kinds of things. Before all of that happens, when you see just the slightest change in your dog's body language with all that, that's when you should be popping, right? You should be popping to the point that it's effective to stop what they're doing and then reward them right after when they do it. Don't make your discipline cold. Don't make your discipline cold, all right? Love your dog and discipline them properly, okay? So I hope this helps, because like I said, I didn't go over it in the video. I did go over it with them in person, but the voiceover, it just, yeah. Anyway, so pop your dogs if you want them to stop doing something, and we're talking about leash pulling here. Teach them to respect the leash, and make sure you restore them to fellowship right after. Okay, we'll see you in another video.